moving to oneness. Nourishing curiosity. Embracing differences. Becoming one.
Sometimes you promise someone something and you don't act right away on it. You never forget it. And then there is the right moment, the optimal moment where everything that exists brings you together to that person or to that action for you to act or implement your promise. So I'll speak more about this, and you'll learn more about a promise I did over 10 years ago to a beautiful, beautiful woman who's today my guest. Hello, everyone. I'm Meilin Ehlke, your host of the Moving to Oneness podcast. So I'm sitting in Germany. So before I introduce my host, also I changed something today for this special occasion, because why didn't I forget her, right? There is something important about this promise that I did a long time ago, spoke out into the cosmos. I left the doors open so we could hear the children. We can feel the wind, the energy of the wind, of nature, and of even my cat walking in and out, and the laughter of the children. So, greetings from Nuremberg, Germany, and I would like to welcome Ana Maria Vasquez, who is not at the moment in Wisconsin, the place where my father's side comes from, but hello, Ana Maria, you are in Colorado. Tell us a little bit, how did it come that you even move back and forth between those two states? What is so special that holds you or invites you to come back and come back and come back?
Well, yeah, I'm in Colorado. I'm in central Colorado, right in the Rocky Mountains, right? When I look out my window right here, there's 4 different 14,000 foot peaks. I'm not sure what the meter conversion is on that, but they're high. They're very tall. And I was born and raised in Wisconsin, not far from where your father lived, actually. And Wisconsin is a beautiful place to be from, with really good people who live there, very salt of the earth kinds of people who would do anything for you. But the weather is very challenging. You don't get a lot of sun, and when you do, you get a lot of humidity and a lot of bugs. And then in the winter, it's so cold. So I took some cues and some job offers, right, that moved me from Wisconsin to Colorado. And I had lived there for about a dozen years. And then I had one of those life tsunamis, right, where your life just kind of falls apart in a very quick time. In the span of 18 months, my relationship had come to an end, a long-term relationship. One of my soul dogs had crossed over. And I lost my job, a really good corporate job, but I kind of hated it, right? Like I would cry on the way to work, but it paid my bills and it allowed me to stay in a beautiful home, right? And in the mountains. And I had to make some decisions. And I had some other folks who were wanting to hire me because I did really good. I was a trainer at a bank and in higher education. But I thought, I'm going to recreate the same thing if I just jump back in out of fear, right? Like we're afraid we're going to lose our home, we're going to lose, money or whatever. Well, I did lose my home. I lost my property and everything. And I actually had to return to Wisconsin and move in with my father. And it was such a blow to my ego and my self-esteem and my sense of who I was. but I had this inner knowingness, even when they were telling me, right? Like, you're losing your job. It was one of the economic fallouts, and every business was tightening their belts, and I was on the chopping block. And I remember when they told me, there was that fear that set in, but in the back of my mind, I could hear this is all supposed to be happening. And so I started smiling, and I'm pretty sure the human resource person was a little nervous, like, is she having a mental breakdown? And I thought, okay, I'm going to trust this. I don't know. I don't understand. And I really did lose everything. And it was very difficult that way, but I knew I was at a choice point, and I had an opportunity to really test out, right? Like, we've got all these universal laws and principles and even platitudes that we just spew, right? Like, all the time. And I thought, well, either these things are real, right? Like the law of attraction and things like this, they're either real and I can incorporate them in my life and apply them and create a life that I love, or they are just a bunch of hokum designed to just make us feel better until we get through this difficult life. So I took universal principles into my life, and I call it my living laboratory. And I tested everything out, and I was starting at rock bottom because I mean, here I am in my dad's spare bedroom, right, with my Great Dane, trying to figure out what am I going to do. And little by little, as I was applying, as I was raising my vibration, as I was making conscious shifts in my thought patterns, in how I approached life and what I focused on, little by little, these things began to unfold in my life that were phenomenal. And it started in that little bedroom in Wisconsin. And not long, I actually didn't have to stay too long. And I found an amazing apartment out in the country on an organic farm, which, first of all, it wasn't as big, 10, 12 years ago as it is now. So to find this little slice of heaven. And I remember I went to go see the place, and the rent was a little high for me. And I thought, I don't have a job. What am I going to do? So I told the landlord I would love to take this place. It's perfect for me, but I can't afford it. It's about $150 to $200 too expensive for me. And he said, well, I understand. Thank you very much. Go on. About a week, maybe 2 weeks passed, and I get a phone call from him. And he says, I have never in my life done this before. If someone tells me they can't afford the rent, then they just can't afford the rent. That's just how it is. He goes, I'm calling to tell you, and he lowered it to $200. And he goes, would that make it affordable for you to live here? He goes, I just keep getting this nudge that you're the right person for this place. And I was blown out of the water because, right, that doesn't happen. But it does when you're working from a different level, when you are working from that law of attraction, when you're working from that space that you believe the universe is conspiring on your behalf instead of it not being a friendly universe. So I moved into that apartment, and I stayed there for about 4 years. And that's really when we met, because I started asking, well, now what do I do? Right? Like, I don't know what to do. And so I actually went on a vision quest because of my indigenous teachings that had been taught to me. I knew when you're up against it, you go to source and you ask the questions and you surrender. And so I went to the Redwoods in California, and I did a vision quest. And you don't eat and you don't sleep when you're doing a vision quest. And at the end of the 3 days, I didn't have any visions. And I didn't have any downloads. I wasn't even hallucinating from not eating or sleeping. I was just tired and hungry and a little discouraged. Like, what am I going to do now? It didn't work, right? From my human mind, it didn't work. But I didn't understand that I had set energy into motion that I couldn't see and I couldn't understand. So, I'm kind of moping all the way back from California to Wisconsin and thinking, oh my goodness, why didn't I take those jobs when they offered them to me? I would be out of the hole by now. I would have moved on. It would have just been a blip. And I thought, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And within a week or two of being home, an email came in about learning how to do online businesses, how to share your gifts, how to call other people in. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And so I took the plunge, I took the course, and an offshoot of the course was another course where we met in the how-to, the technical aspects of doing an online business. And sure enough, it was like that trajectory took me, and it allowed me to build a business that is thriving and growing a decade later. And it led to us meeting as well. So my journey has been one of faith and of really clearing out and facing the fear that I felt at every step along the way, and trusting and learning to really be a conscious co-creator instead of being at the whim and having to react to all the energy, learning how to navigate energy, learning how to work with energy. And through that, a natural byproduct is connecting with animals, connecting with trees, connecting with rocks. So none of it looked the way I thought it should look throughout the journey. But I feel like I'm the poster child for creating a life that you love, that is beyond even what you were hoping that you could do. And so when you reached out to me, and it took a couple minutes for me to go, how do I know this woman? And then I was like, oh my goodness. And the memories came flooding back, and, all of that. And it's been a really good time of acknowledgement and confirmation, like you said, of the promises that we made to ourselves, that we made to each other. And it feels so phenomenal to be here with you, because I'm in a different physical space than I was at that time in my little tiny studio apartment on the farm, to this beautiful sprawling ranch in the mountains of Colorado, and really being the go-to nature gal, right? Like the one who really helps people reconnect to nature and remember who they are and this phenomenal connection we have. And so every single day I'm in such deep gratitude about the journey, right? Like I may not have enjoyed every part of it, but I see it now. I see the merit in it, and I see how it allowed me to create and to learn that I can create at every step of the way. So I want to thank you for keeping your word, because this is the message that people need to know, because I remember what it was like being afraid and thinking I'm never going to be able to do this, to now I'm doing this, right? And at a successful level. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal, and anyone can do it. That's the thing.
Yeah, that is right. We all can do it. And I want to talk a little bit about that promise. We met online about 11 years ago in the summer. I can remember I just moved from Munich to this area here. My son was small. And I wanted to learn how to do summits. And it was a course about summits, how to create them, how to design them, how to organize them. At that time, there weren't many summits. Milena, I think a few years, 2 years earlier, had started the first one. So it was it's very crisp. It had a newness. And at that time, I already knew I wanted to share my message and connect with many beings. And you did the same, otherwise we would have not met. And I remember telling you, and sometimes that's what happens for me, what I learned about myself, I just suddenly open my mouth and something comes out. And then I speak the future of, it's more or less always like a prophecy, right? And I said, you'll be on my show. I'll invite you and we'll do something together later on. Now, later on is now this time, but we all, the energy, you stayed with me. And this is really interesting. I want to share with everyone and share that importance. When you meet people, it can be only for an instance, and you have a certain understanding or a knowing, you came together to start weaving something, right? For your future, for many others, especially a lot of you out there are healers, right? So you're always creating and you're preparing for others to walk a certain walk or take a certain path. And you have to be an example. So trust yourself that who you are and what you bring to this beautiful planet is of importance. And this is also rather important is the wrong word. Yeah, but to feel it and know and to trust, and also know that in that moment, as Ana Maria's used the word so beautifully, you're collaborating with everyone that exists, right? So with nature, with other people, with the star nations, with animals, with the wind, whatever is important in that moment. Yeah, and I'm happy. And then I remember that over the times, here and there, you started your first summit. I never did a summit. I went then right into radio, and I still want to do my summit. Still in my head. Now I'm doing a podcast, and you flourished. And what I love so much about it, and you hinted to it, that you're always working with animals or with trees, especially right when you do nature. We're rather similar. You always have an image of yourself, even over these times of this decade, with the dog in your arm, and you're outdoors. So that is very important, and it shows so much. And I also invite here again, if you take pictures for yourself or your brand and show yourself to the world of what you do, show what you're connected to. It is part of your essence. It's part of you, because again, it's a team. We don't go out into the world alone. We may think it, you may think it. I have thought it often.
Sometimes it feels like it.
Sometimes it feels and devastating and a heavy load, but then you go out into the world. And then, oh my God, I'm not alone. And that's why I have this podcast, right, Ana Maria, to share stories of others, of myself, to for others to grasp or to recognize themselves in it, or get excited of trying something new.
Well, there's those, you live in a small town. I live in a small town now. I grew up in a big city, but I remember feeling like I'm the only one here who believes these things, or who has an interest in these spiritual or universal concepts. And I couldn't just go someplace to a coffee shop and talk to people about it. And that was the draw of the summits for me, because for me, I was someone who participated in them in the early days because I got connected to experts and people who were talking about things that really resonated for me, and a whole community of people. And what I found is they were all over the world, right? And I thought right away, it hit me. We're not alone. We're just all over the place. And the summits, with the flourishing of the internet, we have this ability to not feel alone anymore, and to feel a part of whatever it is that moves us. And I thought, if I could be a conduit for that, to help people connect with the animals and, natural and holistic ways of being and living with our animals and in our own life, that would be phenomenal for me. And it was so great because it was wonderful to pull all these experts from all over the place, all over the world together, as well as participants who were interested in these things, and we could share, and it really was a beautiful way to do it. Even outside of a business plan, it was a beautiful offering and a beautiful unfolding of our connectedness. And so we don't have to feel alone or weird or anything. It gives us a place where we can really come into our own.
Yeah, and at the time now it up leveled anyway, right? We became suddenly so open. In the US, we were more open anyway already to the internet, exchanging with, even using, I'm going to use the platform we're using here right now. I remember the first year, no one in Germany knew about it. Many people didn't know about it, and now it's in everyone's mouth. Also, it is now normal for people to work on it, or if it's not this platform, another one, and people can stay more at home. So there is a calmness, a peacefulness that can go back into people. And they also have noticed that they can build, or I have noticed, you must have noticed that too, Ana Maria, a community suddenly happens. Or we were both shamanically, right? You would use the word, there are rituals being created, even if you have an hour, and if it's an impeccable act. I don't know in your summits, but in my radio shows, I always noticed it always started with some words that I spoke that led to wisdom to arise, or the questions people wrote in or callers would call in, and what they would ask for at the end, it made sense, right? And then it was an impeccable act. So it was closed. And this is also, in a way, a modern ritual. And this, I think, will also lead the way again to go back to exploring what are really rituals are about, and also leading us to physically coming back together and be much more in community, coming together in groups and sharing our interests. So, I also see it that maybe for 56, you were more on purpose, we were separated a lot. And so this also a huge move again in saying, oh, it's not so bad if I'm suddenly how I am in a t-shirt, or the way I am at home, and people maybe can see how I live, right? So many fears disappeared from many of wars in many countries, right? That we still carry in our ancestry. So I see this as coming something beautiful together, a new way, and an encouragement of, oh, if I can do it here, I can do it somewhere else. And that will open up the new doors again to move us into a natural state, in a natural way of ancient way of communities, which will be the future and the ancient, right? There is these bridges being built right now where we can learn to fully let go and open up when we come together with others that we know or don't know.
Yeah, the bridges that are being built. And again, it's a new version of the ancient, right? Like we used to just gather, where we were in proximity to each other around the fire, the light, and now we're gathered around our screens. But
light,
it's
most of the time,
right? The light, there's still light. We're still gathered around it, and it makes me excited because there's a lot of issues with technology, right? And there's a lot of downfalls for society around technology, with people being stuck in their phones all day. But there's so much beauty and so much coming together, and so much sharing and expansion that this allows, everyday people. And that is what I love about it. And that, now we're doing these video calls, and who knows what it's going to be in another 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. But what a phenomenal ride.
Yeah, I think so too. And I spoke with someone, I forgot who it was, but he thought, even the youth now, using Corona again for a second, they're much more on the telephones. But what is they're honing in is in telepathy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, so we all know what is coming. We all know we're moving into telepathy. We will be communicating different. We'll be much more in a natural state again. There won't be a currency. There will be peace. But it has to start somehow. And because we never had what is coming, and we never had this transition from the industrial phase and the technology phase back in, not even back, into whatever we're moving into. It's important to notice and stay open and stay alert and see much more than the eye says, because what is rising, we can't even fathom yet, because none of us had the experience. And
Right.
even I sometimes think about it, if a prophet or something said something, they could be understood. They knew what it would feel like, the energies, some can say, but then you couldn't translate it, right, into let's say, the dense physical, the vocabulary maybe was not there. And if you
Right.
couldn't see or sense, how would you know? And so, because many of us are not really connected anymore, or learning luckily to reconnect, right? Everyone is getting so much more in tune with everything around them, that we will even have to build new vocabulary for what is coming, a new way of relationship, new way of learning what we're made of, right? The science behind, we can't even use what the science was a few hundred years ago. We even have to develop the new science. Right. Again, it becomes very shamanically. So it's going to be a fun ride. So what are the trees saying to all of this? Do you sometimes, I bet you go out into the world and just communicate when you don't do sessions for others, with the trees or with some of your animals? I always see you with dogs. So share a little bit of what they're bringing and what they're sensing for others.
Yeah, that is the first piece that was shared with me by the trees. The trees were actually the first ones who made the connection with me. I had always had a profound connection, especially with dogs. Those are my people. But I would have never said I was an animal communicator, right? Because I just knew I had a strong connection with them. But we didn't even have that language when I was growing up. There just weren't animal community, or there were, but no one talked about them, and they didn't talk about it. So the trees actually first were the ones who first connected with me, that I could hear first. And they really helped me learn a lot. And one of the first things that they taught me was the importance of the humans remembering their connection. Because as soon as we started moving out of the forests, we began to forget. And we forgot not only our connection to the natural world, to all the elements, the trees, the rocks, the animals, the earth herself. We forgot our own abilities, our own connection abilities. And what's fascinating, like you said, with the technology that we have is actually pale in comparison to what our human abilities really are. So anything that we can do with our devices is it's a bland carbon copy of what we have available to us when we start to remember. And with the earth in the state that it's in, and the humans in the state that we're in, remembering our connection it's critical to us moving forward and creating a different possibility. Everything that you talked about, the peace, the coexistence with everyone, and without this hierarchy of we dominate the animals, we dominate the land, we dominate each other, right? Or the other. Yeah. When we move past that, that's what's coming, but it comes from this remembrance. And the one thing that has been true for me from the beginning was that time spent out in nature connecting, because we're bombarded with everybody else's energy, right? We are very telepathic beings, so we feel everything and we think it's ours. And then we're in these synthetic environments where all of the EMFs, right? The electromagnetic fields, radio waves, the microwaves, the 5G, all of this is going on all the time. And it scrambles our messages. It scrambles our ability to intuit and hear. And so right away they were like, more time in nature, more time in nature. And to this day, right, even with a very busy, thriving business, I have made it a point to keep my schedule in a way that I have that time to go and connect. And as I listen for my tribe, I have to, I can't even remember who it was that said it, but there was a spiritual teacher who said, I spend an hour a day in my spiritual practices. Unless it's a really busy day, then I spend 2 hours because it's so important. And even now, as I teach people how to step into their abilities, I tell them when that self-doubt comes up, it requires that you spend more time in nature, because the more time you spend in nature, the more you are flooded with those negative ions, but you're also tuning in to your higher self and that voice from your higher self. And the trees, the rocks, the animals absolutely help to amplify that. They help us remember. I mean, they're like our brethren. And so that part about going out and just listening, not asking, right? That one of the things the trees have laughed and joked about over the years has been, man, the humans, they spend so much time asking, please give me a sign, please tell me this, please da 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 da, and then we never shut up and we never listen for the answer. We spend all this time asking, but we never listen for an answer. And they think it's endearing. It's an endearing, charming quality of ours. And as soon as we get over that, we can really start to tune in. So they have taught me to collaborate with the various aspects, the various beings in nature, as a way to help amplify what's coming in for me, amplify my intentions going out, calling in my divine right tribe that really resonates with the trees, the dogs, the animals. But you're right, like it has been such a crucial part and so important to me that it is rare. It's a rare time that there is not an animal with me or a tree, like right now I can even see some of my favorite trees and things like that. And when I plan appearances or retreats, it's important to me that they take place in nature or a place where we're very close to nature, because I start to get a little squirrely, right? Like when I'm in like a concrete jungle, which is funny. One of my horses just popped his head up to the window here because the syntheticness, it feels fake to me, right? And so I've learned ways to be where I can stay connected to nature and to help people, because there are people who live in the city and they love it, right? Like there's a vibrancy and a flow and a rhythm in a city. And even if we are living at the top of a high rise in the middle of New York City, we can still connect to nature. And so that has been really one of my missions, is to help people remember the importance of the connection, and then remember how to do it no matter where we are.
Yeah. So, I have so many friends, they take the drum and then they're off. I'm not a drummer. I need to sit in the sun. And for my mother, I've learned from her, she just needs to open the door and be outside. The moment she just goes outside, you can feel the switch in her whole attitude and how she feels more calm, connected in that moment. And yes, our buildings do misconnect, but it's easy just sometimes if your house plants, right?
Absolutely.
That's why I think so many people have pets. Everyone you've heard just at the beginning of the show, running water, that's being in the shower or washing your hands really quick is a quick one. We can look at the sky, at the stars, right? That's why so much people love to gaze. Why is the moon attracting so us? Yeah, there's many reasons, but a quick connection, right? And a quick it also pulls our intention far, right? In that moment, God, when I was in college, we studied interior environments, right, as landscape architect as well. And there was one a lecture, and she said, just put up a panoramic poster at your workplace or in your home if you don't have it. So if you're a lot in the computer, for example, even if it's a cityscape with a lot of roofs, because that also it's something that is part of nature. So, or put a poster of the trees or a beach or over water or mountains, whatever you love, and you glance at it for 20 seconds and your whole body goes. So that's another thing. If you don't are able to have a plant or a pet, and you cannot always run, if you're some office buildings, I remember you have to go very far to get to some
Yes.
running water. Yeah. And so this is some little tips, but whatever is important for you out there, do what you need to do to have a moment for yourself. These are precious gifts, and you're a precious being. You're a beautiful being. Give yourself more and more and more, and again, more and more and more moments, times that feel right for you, that feel beautiful to you, where you can exhale. Yeah, this exhale, go very wide, and invite others to do it with you.
And most of us who, have it as a practice, right? We've got big chunks of time that we do it in, that we make sure we make room for. But I remember when I started, it was like a minute, right? Like that's all my brain thought I could come up with, right? Because I was running from here to there. And just so start where you can, even if it's 30 seconds, right? You can set a timer on your phone for 30 seconds. And I get when our brain is telling us, I don't have the time, but 30 seconds, right? You can do that in the bathroom really quick, 30 seconds, but find that time. Even to this day, if I don't seem quite right, or I seem a little frazzled, my partner's like, when's the last time you were outside? Have you talked to the trees today? Because he knows that's my source, right? And if I get too distracted by the busyness, right? And then we make the concessions and we're like, oh, well, I'll just do this, or I'll keep working, instead of just going outside for 30 seconds, right? But we can build on it. So wherever you live, wherever you are in your own practice, start there. If it's just that 30 seconds of breathing, because the breath is life force energy that is moving into our body, that connects us to the quantum field of possibilities. And so often when we look, we're holding our breath. We're holding our breath and our shoulders are up to our ears, right? Like there's no exhale. It's just the constant. And so we learn and we retrain our body to be in a more relaxed state, so that we're not constantly in that fight or flight, but we're in the open space where the divine can get a word in edgewise, where the trees can talk to us, where our cat, our fish, our dog, our horse can talk to us and let us know about what's really important during our time here on Earth. And it's not rushing from one place to another.
It was interesting while you were speaking, there came the thought, food was speaking to me. So the natural foods, so a banana, a vegetable, a cucumber, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, even touching it and eating it is the same thing, not processed foods, right? But
it's so important.
And this already helps you also. If you're doing something busy, cut up some vegetable or fruit and place it next to your work. And if you notice you need support, food or the being of the banana or the being of the cucumber, right? Give you information as well. Or we're both wearing beads today, so I thought that's interesting. I always find it funny what thing I pull out, right? A bead, a piece of stone, for me some metal, or even for some people, while people love rings, there is something the moment you touch it, or we have it mostly on the ring finger. So there is also an energy point an area, right, when you can touch it, or even if you don't have wear rings, just touch there, and they'll help you to reconnect to
Well, all of
yourself.
these are
And to
things that
listen.
are high vibrations, right? Like whole food is so important. And they do I can't remember the word of it. There's a certain kind of photography, Kirlian perhaps is the word, but they will photograph like a piece of fruit versus a candy bar. And you see this light that emanates from the apple or the banana versus the processed food. It's gray and it's dark. There's no life force energy. It's
Cool.
been
Look that
right.
up.
And so
What
you
it's
think
called.
about that. You think about that in your choices. Is this high vibration or low vibration? And the further away from nature things are in general, right? The less life force energy that's in it. And with the processed food comes all the things that act as neurotoxins and scramblers, right? So when people are like, I'm trying to connect with the animals or the angels or my higher self or the trees, and they can't, we want to pay attention to what we're putting in, on, and around our body, because everything is energy, and it's either going to raise your vibration or it's going to lower your vibration. And so we want to pay attention to that. And the more closer to nature kinds of things we're doing and putting in, on, or around ourselves, it makes a difference. And so if you're struggling to make that connection or hold that connection or have it on demand, is what I ask people. Do you have on-demand guidance? Do you have an on-demand connection? And if it's spotty and sketchy, there are easy things in your environment that you can tweak and shift and change that doesn't have, because I know people are like, yeah, but I love my potato chips, or I love my, boxed food. And I'm not saying you can never have it, but I'm saying you have to retrain your brain to be able to have a well-worn path that makes that connection. And then, right, like then I can eat junk food. But if I'm needing to be in the listening for myself or for a client or for a project that's trying to come through, I do clean up my diet. I eat a pretty clean plant-based diet normally, although I do call myself Zorba the Buddha, because I love that we get to experience everything in this physical nature. Like we touch things, we smell things, we taste things, and there's so much to experience. But to not have anything own you, right? Like nothing should have control over you, and to the detriment where it's tuning you out instead of helping you tune in. So there's a lot of consciousness that we need to bring to our everyday living that would make a world of change in our everyday experiences. So I love that we talked about that because these are basic things that when we're struggling to make the connection that we don't always think about.
Yeah, and then the simple one, what do you sit on? I have natural fabrics. I wear natural fabrics. It has to be medicine for me. The furnishings in my home, yeah, there may be a few here things that are not maybe they're artificial. But then I do say, are they here for me? Are they here for my son? Are they here for my partner? Are they here for my animal? Right? Is there a reason? And sometimes even a potato chip. There's a reason you're eating a potato chip, to get some memories back, or for your body to feel a certain way, so you can become aware and what to change and how to change or remember something. But you're totally right. All my studies, the higher vibration you come into, what is important, and you're hinting to that, is to hold the vibration. So, and our meditation is not we should be 24 hours in a high vibratory state. And right, even you said you go on a vision quest. Normal, if you have a vision or you go and look for something, or you go to the wisdom keepers, they say they come back maybe with the answer tomorrow, because they need all night to the curriculum clear and give you the precise answer that is needed. And that reminds me, you also said what the tree said. I thought when the tree spoke, you shared that wisdom that we ask. I think this comes from how we've been trained the last, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of years, right? That is also luckily changing again, that we take ownership of our thought, ownership of our life, of our actions. And that we know, that you know, and that I know that I'm always a collaborator. And that word is not just a word to be thrown out, is you have an active participation in whatever you create. And Ana Maria, you have been sharing, especially also at the beginning, a beautiful way of your intention. And sometimes it takes time. Yeah, shamanically, we know we set intention, intent. The environment, the world has other people, other beings, right? A whole thing has to start to move. Sometimes it can be a very quick thing, and it takes time. So again, hold that vibration high in every way you can. Get support from people like Ana Maria or me, trees, a pet, food, furnishings, a plant in your house. It's an unending list, and that you know you're not alone. And then you can create really what you desire. So don't give up, and know you're not alone, right? And you've shared this so beautiful, Ana Maria. Do you have maybe a last word or tip that comes from, I see you like you have a little party, or this one image really of you again, where you have the trees, where you have the birds, the wind, and your dogs. And what do you say as that one voice, if you all would say something together for us, what is coming now in these times? We got now fall 2021, today. And as we're recording this, what is something that needs to be spoken?
You know, the first thing that started coming through as I was visualizing, you know, my team of collaborators, trees, dogs, animals, rocks, the mountains, and it's authenticity, right? Mm-hmm. So being authentic with where you are. So often in these spiritual communities, we want to love and light everything, right? Rainbows and unicorns. And sometimes that's not what it is. Sometimes there's more going on. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that the trees, the animals, the rocks have really taught me is to be authentic and honest about what's going on, right? Like every day isn't rainbows and unicorns. Some days it's hard. Some days we're struggling. Some days we don't understand how things are unfolding or why it's unfolding. And instead of just wallowing in that all day long and why me and why this and why blah, 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 and I'm such a good person, and, you know, our sad little stories that we just play on repeat all day, and then we wonder why we keep creating more of the same. If we become honest, one of the main keys in being a conscious creator that they taught me was come to us and tell us what's going on and be honest about how you feel about it. And so to come in and say, you know, I'm having a hard time understanding what's unfolding, or I'm intending and asking to create this, but this is what's showing up. And this is how I feel about it. Like I'm frustrated or I'm angry or I don't get it. And then to restate, what is it that you're creating? But we have to move that other energy first. And so often we want to keep a lid on it. And we want to pretend like it's not there, and we don't want to look at it. But everything is energy, and it is creating under the surface. So it's imperative that we be honest, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot of top of the mountain kinds of days, right? And one of my rules is if I go too long in a day without experiencing something truly magical, I know I'm out of alignment, and I need to either get outside or I need to shift somehow. But that part about being honest and authentic and present to what's real or what seems real to me at the moment has been the key to moving through the density. And what the earth herself and the animals and the trees have helped me release from myself, and that they hold in such a beautiful way and help to transmute, so that I don't have to be next week, next year, 10 years from now, telling the same sad story over and over about what's not working. And that being authentic and being honest and pure with your heart when you come with whatever's going on, that to me has been the biggest key that helped move from the moment that I was sitting in that human resource office going, oh no, what in the world am I going to do? Right. And at that point, I was having to work 3 and 4 jobs to keep things going, even though I had a really good corporate job. Where I lived was very high cost of living place. And so I had 3 other part-time jobs just to keep everything going. And I will tell you, that is not the case now, right? Like I have one business, it's my business, it's connecting with animals, and it's not a hobby, it's not a side gig. It has allowed me to live a really beautiful, thriving life where I am of service and where I get to create from a place that is helping and raising the vibration. So, I might have thought I was on top of the world at that point in that corporate job, but I hated so much of it. And I didn't even like myself that much at that time. And I didn't understand what the point was to go back in to recreate that. And so instead of resisting those kinds of questions that are going to make you make some big changes, well, I was kind of pushed, but then I did lean into it, then I surrendered.
I bet you asked for that push anyway.
Right. Yes, exactly. And what I think the biggest thing was, you don't have to have that big push. You don't have to have that big life tsunami. You can start making changes now. Even if you are in the job that you don't like, you don't have to upend your whole life. You can start to shift it in a very manageable way that will still create a beautiful outcome, but without all the trauma and drama in there, right? Like I am so far from trauma and drama anymore that when I see it, I'm like, eesh, that used to be the norm, right? Like, especially spending time with family, like I told you we just did, and beautiful to be with family, wonderful. But you also see the old limiting patterns that you were a part of, that you bought into, but by grace, I learned another way to do it so that I don't have to live in that constant high drama, trauma every day, because that's exhausting and it doesn't leave a lot of room to create. You're just trying to survive.
And we're done with just surviving. So everyone, know you can do it. Set out your vision very, very far. Set out your vision as huge as you can. Be courageous. You have here 2 beautiful women that have done it, that know so many others who have done it, some slower. I was someone who always said, no, bring it on. I wanted to move, to remember, to reconnect the fastest way possible. So it was not always smooth, and many tears I cried, many mad moments, as you said, Ana Maria.
I'm a cusser. I cussed a lot.
But it's worth it. If I look back, if I acknowledge now what other people speak, how they see me, even people that don't even know, and they say, oh my God, I'm here. That's where I wanted to get. And this is amazing. Suddenly the environment will tell you that your vision has appeared, because they can see and feel you and your vision. So it keep on going. Ana Maria, thank you to share your ways of consciously creating the life one desires. I desire, you desire, we all desire, and giving your tips and your beautiful fun energy, sharing that with us and uplifting us at the same time. And a lot of healing was going on. You can't, I bet, not do that. That is a part of you being a healer as you reconnect people to themselves and to all other existing beings. So Ana Maria, thank you very much. Everyone out there, reach out. Maria, do you have a web to share? And I'll put that also in the show notes. You can.
Absolutely. My website is intentiontraining.com, and they can go there and you can find, I have a free gift that I offer in exchange for your email address that will give you the top 5 tips that I have for connecting with animals and nature. It's all about what we've been talking about, vibration, ways to do it, and energetic supplementation that where we don't have to struggle and work so hard, but we can work in synergy with life force energy to help us move. And then, of course, it automatically puts you on my mailing list, so you stay in touch with any appearances that I've got, any classes that I've got coming up, anything that I'm sharing. I typically do mini readings for the folks in my email list, and I have a free broadcast that I do twice a month called What's Up Wednesday, where we talk about what's up energetically. We do readings. It's a great time to gather and just raise our vibration. So I'm so grateful that we connected all those years ago, that you kept your promise, you remembered your promise, right? How many times do we say things and then we just don't even remember it anymore? And that you have stepped in and created a beautiful platform for us to have these soulful conversations and to remind all of us of the possibilities. So thank you. This has been such a fun stroll down memory lane, and my partner and I have had great conversations around it too, and it's been a really fun time remembering, right? And then putting that out there as a possibility for others, that no matter where you are, right? It doesn't matter if you're crying and cussing in your room right now, and you're looking at your checkbook balance and it's not a positive number. None of that matters. That's what's happening. That's what the 3D is showing right now. But you can change that, and you can be the conscious creator in that. And that's the hope that I want to leave people with, because we are here to have an amazing experience. And if that's not what you're having, then we can change that.
Yeah, right. We can do it, or just do it. I read that's the Nike slogan, and I love that. I say that a lot, and to myself, or if I stumble, and even sometimes think about the symbol is so beautiful. It's right. It's like a check mark, or also like a beautiful movement and a point where you start, and again then it flows, or it can fly. Like the shoe, right? You can run really fast. There's so many things in that symbol, but the first stop needs to be done. And your decision in this moment, if you want to just decide, yes, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna change something. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna be authentic. Now is the time. Pick one of them or many of them, and off you go.
Yes.
And yeah. So if you also need support, come to our community, Moving to Oneness Facebook group. You're always welcome there. You can also ask questions or demand topics for other shows. And I thank you for listening, Ana Maria. Thank you for sharing your time again with us, and we'll have you back one day. Everyone, this is Meilin, and I wish you a wonderful day. Bye-bye.